Welcome to Malcom Reed's How to Barbecue Right, a podcast where we talk about barbecue, share recipes, and discuss all things delicious. And now, here's your host, Malcom and Rochelle Reed.
Hey, welcome back to the How to Barbecue Right Podcast. I'm your host, Malcom Reed. Got Shell right here on my side of the table. Shell, we got a guest on the other side. Who we got with us this week?
It's just Mark.
It's Mark. He's probably been on the podcast more than anybody.
Almost as much as you.
Almost.
No, I appreciate it. It's always a good time. It's a busy year. We've been traveling a lot, cooking a lot, so it's definitely a little bit picked up from last year, but we've enjoyed it, have a good year, and just kind of chasing that dream, seeing what's out there.
So what have you been cooking?
MBN, something I said I never would cook.
Memphis Barbecue Network.
Memphis Barbecue Network. It started out as we were just cooking hogs to practice for Memphis and May. Well, Memphis and May's over, and guess what? We're still cooking hogs.
That's like right.
You've seen where Memphis and May said that they are officially doing it somewhere different.
Did you see the price tag on that?
1.5 or $1.4 million. How much damage?
So they're saying
That's crazy.
That's how much damage was done to the
park. Yeah.
Yeah.
After all of Memphis and May, now that has to include music, everything they did down there, not just barbecue.
It was like, I don't forget, like a stupid amount for landscape. I'm like, there wasn't even that much landscape out there.
Yeah, yeah.
It's I think
It's pretty much a crock.
Yeah. You know, so the rumor was when they said they were moving, they were going to have it back down there. Memphis and May was going to go back to the river one time. That was the rumor. And they were just going to prove that they can't have it there anymore. So they're going to have to find a new location.
Yeah.
And it seems that's come true.
Yeah.
Because it's like whoever the planning commission or whoever's in charge of all that doesn't want to have Memphis and May down there for some reason.
I hope they get it completely out of Memphis, period.
Yeah.
So then it
Heard it here first.
What, Mississippi and May?
Yeah. I mean, the Memphis River Kings come to South Haven, so why not barbecue?
Yeah. But if they don't have it next year, we're going to find something else to get into.
You found a cool contest up in North Carolina, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a hog contest. It's way different than what we've been doing, but it's very interesting to me.
Yeah. What is it called? Do you remember?
Something barbecue fest
spot.
on Nuas, how you say it? Neuse or something.
Oh, don't get me lying.
Yeah, you got me lying.
But it's strictly a hog contest. They claim it's the world's largest hog contest.
Everybody gets the same hog or something?
Everybody gets the same hog for now. Correct. I mean, if I'm wrong about this, guys, and y'all know more about it, shoot us a message, let me know. But the way I understood it watching the YouTube video is they come around and give you the hog. It looks like everybody cooks the same whole hog. And the judges come to you. You don't build a box. And it's strictly a Carolina-style hog. Salt. You know, they're judging it on how brown it is, what kind of color, the skin crispiness. And the judges come to you, they glove up, and they demolish that.
No presentation.
No presentation whatsoever.
Yeah.
You just get it done.
You get it done.
They come in and dig around it.
They open the pit up. I think you got 4 little bowls of sauce for the judges. And they got like these big, like heavy duty gloves, and they just tear into that hog, and they start pulling bones out. They're doing the test of where the bone dries out to know that it's tender or done, and they break the skin, they taste it, and they go on to the next one.
I kind of like that idea because it's how good can you cook a whole hog, not how good can you put the meat into
in the
a
box.
Yeah.
No, it was pretty interesting. Now, when them judges left, this hog looked like it had been picked over at 100 people to make this hog, you know. But
they can't eat that much of it if they're judging that.
They
many
can't be, and
hogs.
they got to have. I'm assuming more than just those 4 judges.
Oh yeah.
You know, I'm sure there's probably rounds of them, and
once it's picked over, though.
But then I think they take all the leftovers and like they donate them, and they use that to raise money and stuff like that. So like nothing goes to waste.
That might be one you need to visit first.
Yeah, I got a message. The video that the couple that had the YouTube channel, I sent them a message like, hey, you know, give me some details on this. You know, we'd be interested. This is definitely out of our wheelhouse because we're used to cooking a bright red Memphis style hog. You know, this is not that at all. So
I mean, I'm sure you could cook it that way. It just probably ain't gonna do as good.
They ain't gonna like it.
Yeah.
But that's to me.
But I mean, it's like learning new things.
It is.
Yeah.
And to me, that's a good eating hog. And I'm interested in that because that's something that is, you taste the hog. You know, it's kind of what we started out doing is, you know, fireballing these hogs, getting the skin crispy and stuff like that. But that's not necessarily going to be what the judges are looking for in our area, you know. So you got to play the game, and we've learned that over time, you know.
No matter what kind of sanctioning
any
body.
level.
Yeah.
I mean, you can look at
It's
KCBS,
KCBS,
whatever. We're pretty good at playing those games most of the time.
Yeah,
We got to
you
learn.
gotta learn
You
'em.
got to learn
Yeah,
it.
you got to learn them. There's always a learning curve.
Yeah, and there's so many different sanctioning bodies out there right now. You know, if we were up in St. Louis, they have a whole St. Louis Barbecue Society. There's
Georgia has their own.
yeah,
There's like 3 or 4 different ones in Texas.
Yeah.
I don't forget how many for the Jack Draw the other day. How many teams was in it from Texas because of all the qualifiers down. It was like 150 or 200
Really?
bungs in the barrel
Mhm.
for Texas.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
That's what everybody says. All the guys from Texas want to go cook. They're leaving Texas to get a draw somewhere else
Yeah.
because like you got a slim to none chance in Texas. But it's a big state.
So speaking of what contests, are there any contests that you haven't done that you want to do? And this is for you too, Mel. This like a bucket list type contest. Houston, I figured you'd say Houston.
You know, I mean, I'd go.
I got
it ain't burning no hole in my pocket to get there or nothing.
I told him yesterday we rode by that black trailer sitting down there, and I was like, man, we got to pull her out of retirement at some point. Got to get her ready. I want to do the pig jig.
Yeah, I could see.
Definitely want to go down there. I'd like to do Houston. There's a couple like
I've been seeing these TikToks on meat stock here lately. You know, in
Australia?
I'm very interested in that one.
I don't think it's more of a. I mean, it might
It's
have
not
a contest aspect.
It's more of a
but
festival.
it's like a meat festival.
Yeah.
Do they still do the Big Apple Block Party?
Nope.
Quit doing that one.
And see, I seen the other day, which I would like to go
There's
see.
still one in DC.
Well, there's that
barbecue, but Capital Barbecue Battle or whatever.
And then there's a Windy City Smokeout.
It's not a contest.
It's not a contest, but I would like to go visit.
Yeah.
I'd like to go see it.
Yeah,
So
that's
they
kind of
do-
a festival too.
They do one like in Denver. They do one in St. Louis. They do, there's some of those big festivals like that.
I'm more of a. This year's been crazy because we cooked so much, but somebody asked me the other day, he's like, well, how do you know what contest you want to go do? And I was like, I want to go somewhere that I want to go.
Yeah.
Like, I love Galax because I like going to Galax because it's 70 degrees up there when we go. Murfreesboro, same way, So I think a lot of our contests, especially, is destination contests. That's what I look forward to. Like, they got one this year, I think it's in November, in Biloxi is the last NBN contest. And it's like at this awesome, like on the beachfront RV resort, super, super nice. And I was like,
Y'all going to it?
Yeah, we've already signed up.
Did we
What
do
month
that
is
one?
it in?
November, I
Yeah.
think. It's like the first week of November.
Oh, is it? We went to a KCBS contest down there at Biloxi. It was like the Island View Casino.
Yeah, that's the one I
Put
was
that
thinking
on,
of,
and it
yeah.
was like right across the street from the beach. It was pretty cool.
A lot of good food down there.
Yes.
so.
I like those coastal contests. It gives you a reason to go to the beach.
I do too. This one's like I guess it's like in a Bay Area or somewhere down in Biloxi.
Yeah.
Like the actual RV park's like oceanfront type deal, So I was like, we need to get one of them.
Yeah, that'd be
So-
fun.
We're looking forward to that. We're looking forward to the rest of this year just to kind of see. We're going to play the best card game we can play and see where the cards fall. I'm just anxious to see kind of how we stand up this year, first year NBN, and still learning every week. So I'm excited.
Well, this week y'all did. We released a video that you both were in, all about brisket basics. It was kind of more of a less of a recipe video, and what would you say, more of a
It's kind of like just
informational?
how to cook a brisket or how to do it on a stick burner.
Yeah.
Pretty much
Yeah.
what it was. Not so much. It wasn't so much a recipe as you could season it or do all that. It's more a technique. So I guess it'd be a brisket technique video.
Yeah, brisket
think-
techniques.
I
And
think
y'all talked about more than just
But yeah,
stick
we
burner.
kind of gave our thoughts on tips and stuff like that for cooking a brisket.
I think that's so much more valuable than a recipe.
Yeah,
Because a recipe is flavor. Like that's not the technique. Like you do a recipe this way with these rubs or these spices or these seasonings because that's the flavors you like. Well, I may not like that,
Yeah,
but the technique's going to be the same.
Yeah.
If you want to get a tender brisket, the technique's going to be the same. And I think that's way more valuable to me than like, hey, use this, use that, But it was fun. It was I think it gave us the opportunity to talk about our best brisket cooks and our worst brisket cooks, And
Yeah.
I've learned a lot more from a bad brisket cook than I have a good brisket cook. So
that's very true.
I mean, brisket is the hardest thing to cook. I don't care what anybody says. You could screw one up. So there's so many ways you can screw it up.
well, I think
Even just from buying it at the store, not getting a good brisket. I mean,
that's the variable. Is to me, I feel like the briskets are the most inconsistent protein out there.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I guess it's just the muscle and,
Yeah.
you know, being it's technically kind of a leaner cut on a
Yeah.
cow, you know.
It's just not a good cut to begin
Yeah.
with.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's really
like if you go
not.
get ribs, most of the time you're getting the same kind of rib. You know, I mean, you can step up
Especially
different
if
breeds.
you're looking
but-
at the brand.
Right.
Yeah.
If you go get a pork butt, I mean, I've never been like, man, this pork butt's light years better than this one. But you can go get a brisket and you'd be like, this is a good brisket, you know. So I think it's
Do
you're
you
never.
think it's our area, or do you think that's just how it is across the board?
I think that's
it's
how it
general,
is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you fork the money out for like a, you know, Australian Wagyu or something like that from Kevin or something that is like marble to the peak,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to get the same. You could go buy a case of briskets right now from Costco or Sam's, and I guarantee you, out of 10 of them in there, there's going to be 10 different ones.
I've bought a case of those IBP briskets or whatever they are from, you know, Sam's Club or Costco or Restaurant Depot, and across the board, there's different one. I mean, in the case, no two are alike when you
Right.
cook them. I guess it's just the life of that cow. I mean, there's not as much quality control on a brisket, I guess. I mean, I don't know what it is, honestly. It has to come down to marbling and the quality of the meat.
And I guess that works that cow's neck. So, I mean, if he's a right-handed cow, he may look to the right more, you know, I don't know. Like,
It's just, that's a big muscle they use, moving around, walking and getting up, getting down, and
when
everything
you
they do.
think about this is like, we trimmed that brisket, or you trimmed that brisket before I got there, and it was just a normal trim, nothing crazy aggressive. But if you was to take those 10 briskets out of a case and trim them all as close to the same as you can, none of them are going to look the same. Like I see more shape differences in brisket. Like you look at the A9s versus a prime,
Mhm.
and you know how much different that A9's shaped, but it's still a cow. Like, why is it that much difference? You know, what changes that? And I don't know. I just think you're never going to get the same product. And your goal is to create the same finished product, but you're not going to start with the same product every time. And that's where the hard part of a brisket is.
Well, do you think you could take, say, a cheap brisket, like, a select or a choice grade, and cook it to where it's as good as an expensive brisket that you spent over $200 on?
No.
You don't think they'd ever come close?
Because I know how good my A9 is, and I'm
Yeah.
going to tell you, you're not going to cook a select that
Okay,
good.
well,
It'll
take
never-
that question. Could you take a really expensive brisket and turn it into a really crappy one
Yeah.
by the end of the cook?
I mean, it can
Well,
go either way. I mean,
yeah.
not saying you can't cook a good select grade or a cheaper grade brisket. That's what we started out cooking. You know, I'm not saying you can't, but I'm saying you would have to be at your best game. You would have to hit every mark to make that brisket as good as what a Wagyu. And you could screw up a lot on a Wagyu or a higher grade brisket, and it'd still be dang good.
Yeah.
That's the reason we cook them in contest, is because
More room for
you
error.
have so much more room for error. I mean, you can literally overcook or undercook one of them Wagyus, and it's still tender and it's
Yeah.
still good. Now, the mouthfeel may not be perfect, but it's still dang good.
So if you just want to cook a brisket for your friends, family, backyard brisket, where do you go to get that?
You're gonna have to go to a box store. You know, we're lucky enough to have Sam's and Costco and several butchers in our area, but starting out, I would say, you know, if you could find a prime at Sam's, that would be my recommended, because it's not overly priced, but it still gives you a little bit of cushion as far as marbling. You know, it'll have a little bit more marbling. You'll still be that good beefy flavor. And that's another thing is people don't realize is, to me, a choice grade has more of that beef flavor than like a prime or Wagyu does. Because I guess the fat and marble, like, granted, it's a different flavor, but it's just like a sirloin. To me, a sirloin is way beefier
Yeah.
tasting than a
Mhm.
ribeye. And I
But-
think the lesser grade briskets have that. So that's kind of a toss up.
So you think the muscles actually taste beefier than
I
the
think
fat?
you pick up more on the beef flavor.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at a flat iron, you know, a flat iron's beefy.
Yeah.
A fillet's really,
Yeah,
it's not as
it's not.
much.
Yeah, I don't get the beefiness in a fillet, but I do. I do agree with you. Like on the flat iron, the skirt, those Denver steaks, they have they have that more beef flavor to them.
I was talking to a guy the other day, and he cooks in Texas, and that's what he said. He said the Wagyus don't do nearly as good down
Yeah,
here
because of the flavor.
they don't have that beefy flavor.
Mhm.
So he usually cooks a lesser grade. He might cook a high grade prime or a low grade Wagyu, but he said once you get in them crazy marble ones, he said they don't do as good. So I want to go to Texas to see if I can do as good.
Yeah. Malcolm's gotten some first place briskets in
We
Texas.
got a 180 first time I cooked
That's
over there.
like
I got a
a-
180 with the Wagyu brisket in
Yeah.
Texas.
That's a goal.
And people said it couldn't be done
Yeah.
back then.
Everybody outside of Texas wants to go to Texas and get a brisket call.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't blame them because I've had some mighty fine briskets in Texas. So
But I mean, those you can't compare them to those restaurant briskets what we're cooking in contests and stuff.
that's
Not the
another
same.
thing. A good friend of mine's wife, she wants me to cook a brisket for him. And I was like, do you want to eat in brisket or do you want a competition brisket? She's like, which one's better? I was like, for one bite, competition brisket's fine.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, but you're not going to want to sit down and eat a plate of it. Like, you're not going to want more than a half a slice, if that, you know?
Mhm.
So, brisket's been one of ours that we struggled with at first, but it was one of them things that's what I took the most pride in cooking. And it's one of them things, like, I guess every barbecue guy, like, they always want to nail the brisket. And I just took it a little, like, I really want to nail the brisket every time. And I enjoy cooking brisket for the difficulty of it, you know. But once you figure it out and realize it's not a time game, throw the clock out the window. Like, just cook it till it's tender, you
I
know,
was going to say that. What do you think the number one thing is people screw up and why brisket's hard for them?
because they want to look at a number on that thermometer.
And time.
And you can't do it. I mean, I use that as a guide, and people say this all the time. Temperature is just a guide. Time's just a guide. At that point, time is not a guide for brisket, in my opinion. Time does not make a bit of difference. I mean, yeah, it needs time in the pit, but you have to go off feel, and you have to know, like, a choice grade. It's only going to go to about 202, maybe 205, but it's not going to go much further. It's going to be over. You know, prime, you can take it up a little bit further. You know, you learn that and learn the feels of the quality of brisket. And I've got to a point now that, like, cooking these competition briskets, I can look at a brisket when I'm trimming it and I know about what I'm going to push it to every time. And, like, when we were in Galax, me and Jay both looked at the brisket in the trailer before we injected it, and we both spit out a number and a time, and we kind of agreed on it. That's what we went to. And
Comes with doing.
that comes with doing it.
Yeah.
That's many briskets cooked, but I think it's people get in a hurry. They try to push that brisket. Well, I need to go to 198. That's what this recipe says. Well, it's going to be tight, or it might be
Yeah.
over. And a lot of these temperatures really don't matter because we're cooking on stick burners. So we're going to push them a higher temperature than what somebody says cooking on a WSM or a backwoods or a lower temp. You're not going to cook that
Pellet grill.
a pellet grill. If you're cooking low and slow, the finish temp's not going to be as high as what it is if you're cooking over 300 degrees.
Why?
Because it's the amount of time it's in the stall. The stall is what makes it tender. So anywhere from that 175 to 195, the amount of times in that stall is what makes it tender. So if it's going to be in that stall period a lot longer, your finish temp's going to be a lot lower. When we're cooking hot and fast, we push right through that stall. We have to push it further to render the fat. We'll still get it tender, but you're not going to render the fat.
Same concept with like a sous vide.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If you can hold it in that lower temperature longer, it'll get done.
Correct.
It'll
That's the
return.
reason those overnight pork butts and those overnight briskets on that pellet grill at 200 degrees are so dang good, you know, because it's in that stall. You're rendering everything. And once we kind of learned that when we went to hot and fast, is we were trying to take it to the same temp as what we were when we were cooking low and slow, and you can't. It doesn't work. It might be tender, but if you notice, you'll get, like, especially on some of these Wagyus, you'll get a waxy feel because it's a lot of fat in that brisket slice that has not rendered. And now, like, when we slice them, we're taking them way past 210. Like, we're pushing the wheels off these briskets.
What's the highest you've taken one?
214.
That's the highest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you were cooking hot and fast.
Cutting hot and fast.
Yeah.
And a lot of that too, and we talk about some videos where you're at. You know, if you're in Galax, Virginia, or if you're 3,000 feet ish, you're not going to see 214 on the brisket.
It
Even if
won't
you are,
do it.
it won't do it. 207 is all you're going to see. Galax, my brisket went to 207, and it never comes off that low.
What do y'all think's better? Like, what's your own personal opinion? Hot and fast, low and slow? If you're going to cook a brisket,
low and
how are you
slow is
cooking?
always better to me. Always. There's no, just because, like Mark said, it gives time for that fat to fully break down, keep the meat juicy. A babysitter one, if you got time to do it and cook it 17 to 20 hours and then let it rest on top of that, it's hard to beat. But nobody's got that. They're not cooking competition briskets
Yeah.
like that, you know?
Is that just why you do hot and fast? Is because it's
Time thing. Yeah.
Time thing, and I don't think a low and slow would work for our recipe.
Yeah.
In competitions. fact, I know it won't. I mean, there's no possible way. But the reason we do it is time. I like my sleep. So I get my sleep and I put on late in the morning and shove them, push them on through there. But hot and fast has its purpose. For competition wise, there's a different feel. There's a different texture you get on hot and fast than you'll get on a low and slow, especially on pork and brisket. You don't notice it as much on ribs or chicken, but pork and brisket, you definitely notice a different texture, a different mouthfeel that is very pleasant that judges seem to like. And you may back this up, is our old rib recipe. We had a timeline and we kind of knew when them ribs would come off when we were cooking 200, 225, 250. That recipe there has not changed at all going to hot and fast. And I guess because the ribs lay so flat in the pit that it's really not in that hot and fast environment like you think it is, whereas a pork butter brisket stands up in that pit, so it's higher in the pit and it's hotter. Our rib timeline has not changed a bit, but all our other products have. Chicken hasn't changed a bit. We still cook the same amount of time at 300 as we did when we were at 250.
Yeah,
but the big meats have changed.
Yeah. I mean, to me, 300 is perfect for chicken anyway. But it's been, it probably would change if you were cooking like 225 to 250 slower.
Yeah, maybe.
But we ain't cooked pork at those temps, and I couldn't tell you.
Well, y'all used to start y'all's out low and slow, and then y'all would move it over to dry heat and bump it up, once you wrap it.
We were cooking on when we cook on backwoods, we kept it that low. But you were looking at a 6 to 7 hour rib then, sometimes 8. Now we cooking ribs in 3.5, 4 hours.
Yeah.
So it definitely sped it up some. I don't know. I think the biggest thing is that competition is so different cooking than what you're going to cook at home. I mean, you're not going to take a Wagyu brisket and cut it down to where it's a 8.5 by 11, sheet of paper size.
I remember
and cook just that flat, just for those slices.
Shell gave me such a bad look that first time.
I remember the first time we saw that, somebody was like, they just took a $250 brisket and cut it down to $50.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for real, that's what you do. That cooking that same way that you cook that brisket would not work for a whole packer brisket. It's got to be trimmed like that. It's got to be cut down, and to cook it in that amount of time the way you want to cook it for the box. I mean, you're cooking it to get perfect slices, to get 7-8 slices to go in a box, and for it to be one bite. I mean, that's the whole total thing.
And the video y'all did was more
eating brisket. It was straight up eating brisket. And so we changed that, and you could have cooked the competition brisket way faster than we cooked that brisket in that video.
We are averaging less than 4 hours on a comp brisket.
Yeah, see, that's so crazy to me that you can cook a brisket.
But how long do you let it rest? Or is that including the rest in it too?
No, I'll let it rest at least 2.
Yeah.
That's the bigger thing and that's something, a lot of people out there is like, I can't, I've been to, Franklin's barbecue. I've been to Terry Black's and I can't get that brisket. You're not resting. These guys are resting these briskets 12 to 24 hours.
Yeah.
They're holding them in a proofing oven, running them at 150, 170, whatever temp, and they're cooking those briskets the day before and holding them all night. And that is game changer. So it's hard for you to do at home because most ovens won't go down low enough, and then any other method is going to be too low. So you have to have something to do that. Now, I've done it in the oven. I've set it at 170 and actually set it in a pan and kind of shielded it, and it's been fine. It's
how long did you hold it like that?
12 hours
in the oven like that.
And it is. It's.
Did it make a big difference doing that?
Yeah, there's nothing like it.
Really?
It when you talk about
texture of it,
texture, moisture, like that brisket we cooked was excellent. I could only imagine how good that brisket would be if we'd have done that. Because we always talk about like fats and flavors and moisture redistributing through that meat. It truly does at that point. And it gives it time just to chill out. And I've done it before in a sous vide. I've cooked a brisket, put it in a sous vide, lightly vacuum sealed it because you don't want to put it in an unnatural state. You don't want to vacuum seal that cooked brisket all the way down because it's not meant to be that way. A lightly vacuum seal it, put it in a sous vide at 150 and let it go. And it is fine. It is so good.
So it's fully cooked and then you're just holding it?
Just holding it in the sous vide.
Yeah. What did it do to the outer bark and stuff? Did it all get wet?
Nothing. But I always put back on.
Oh, okay. You put it back on, dry it out.
So I always put back on and, I always do that.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not that big a deal. Now, if you was to leave it in butcher paper and do that, I don't think you would lose any of your bark.
Yeah.
This was completely out and just in a vacuum seal bag. But I think if you was to do that in a butcher paper, it couldn't do nothing but get
You've
better.
got some good tests there. I'd like to see what a brisket would be like. Like cook it like we did. You got it ready to slice, but you had one the day before that had been holding some, maybe one was in the oven, held the best you could. Maybe one was in a sous vide, and then slice them all at the same time and see if you could tell the difference.
They
I guarantee you
I'd
would.
be
Oh,
a huge difference.
Yeah.
I would
It's
think. Yeah.
unreal. And I've actually had a guy reach out a couple weeks back, actually to our company email, and was like, "Hey, I'm wanting to rest a brisket long. What's the safe way to do it?" And like I got with him and we got to talking. They do make countertop proofing ovens. Amazon has them, and they're not outrageously expensive. And I'm like, I almost want to buy one.
Well, what's not outrageously expensive?
I mean, it's like a
buy
couple $100.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Well,
not.
they have woman drawers. You see them in outdoor kitchens all the
Yeah.
time. They
Yeah.
put them below grills.
Oh, that's a good thing.
and,
Yeah.
then, and it's just a controlled heat. It's no different than having like a steam table that that you can control the temp on. I know. I mean, just from experimenting we've done, I've left a probe in. I don't know if it's a brisket or butt. You remember when we did it in the
butt.
color? And
Yeah.
we watched it just to see how long it would stay in the safe zone above 140
You're saying
we
we
were
put it in a cooler.
in just a cooler. Like it was a
Yeah.
Yeti, I think.
No, it wasn't.
Wasn't-
It was one of those cheap island.
Yeah.
Island breeze.
Oh, was it really like okay?
yeah.
Well, it was 8 hours.
Yeah.
It was in there.
And we watched the temp. Yeah.
You got tired of keeping up with it.
Yeah.
So I mean, you got to look. You can hold it a long time if it's wrapped up and you got the space took up inside a dry cooler like that.
I mean,
I would say leave a thermometer in it though.
yeah.
So you know.
I think once you figure out resting proteins, it completely changes your whole cook process. I mean, we've done that with ribs. I mean, how many times have we changed? Like we went through and cooked ribs back to back to back and held them at different hours to figure out which one.
That's kind of how we got to where we with our technique now.
I mean, but you don't want to rest those ribs in a great, good cooler. I mean, they discontinued our party stacker.
That's what we talked about last. I think Tyler told us that, or someone, or Chill did.
So now they've become. I need all mine back.
Yeah. I got a couple at the house. No, we just need to develop the HowToBBQRight rib cooler.
Yeah, there you go.
But
I don't know why they would just. That was such a great cooler.
I don't think
Nobody
nobody
used
was using it for drinks.
coolers,
Yeah.
yeah. They're kind of impractical for actual icing down drinks.
Yeah.
We've used them before, but
They'll get you by.
yeah.
There's no great way to tote it around either.
Yeah.
It's kind of just got this molded little.
Yeah, you can't even
grill.
hold it.
Yeah,
But it's a heck of a rib
it's a
rester.
heck of a rib rester. Yeah, or a brisket rester.
Yeah,
That's what I like about it.
I think I enjoyed that video and that recipe. That was, I mean, I learned something that day.
What'd you
Yeah.
learn?
Two things that really the hardest part to me that I think I struggled with that day in that video, and we talked about it a little bit, is tipping the briskets and keeping the moisture off the top
From pooling.
from pooling.
So explain that.
So
No, it's natural juice.
it's
a lot
natural
of it.
juices. So a lot of times trimming a brisket, and you'll see these Texas restaurants are really good about it, and they've figured out the way to make it easy on them, I think. But usually when you're cooking a brisket, it's not going to cook. You can trim it and make it pretty, but once it goes in that heat, it's going to change its shape. You're going, parts of fat's going to render faster than others, so it might make a little divot, and that little divot's going to create a little juicy fat pond, is what it is.
Yeah.
And it'll mess your bark up, so you're not going to get the color there. So you constantly have to kind of keep that moisture off of it. And, a lot of guys will take some of their brisket trimmings and put underneath that brisket to where it domes up. But to me, that changes when you start slicing it, completely changes the appearance of that brisket. So we would get in there and we would just tip it and just grab one side of it, tip it up, let the juice run off, put it back down, put a little bit more rub on it and roll on. But I think there's an art to that. I think these guys that do this every day know how to trim that brisket to prevent that. So they're changing. I think they're shaping that brisket better. I think they've cooked enough to where they know it's going to do that, and they correct it on the front end.
Yeah.
Because, if you're cooking, some of these guys cooking 100 briskets a day, you're not out there fighting that every day on 100 briskets.
No,
I
don't
you
know.
tip a few of them, but
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think they care.
I think it matters, though. I think
so.
especially
By the time you're holding that thing for 10 hours, you think it matters?
But they're also something we did different. A lot of these Texas style pits are not doing is we wrapped way sooner than what some of these guys would. You know, they might run 7 or 8 hours before they wrap, but they're not cooking.
A lot of them will wrap before they actually even put them in hold. I mean, it's
like
pretty
they
much
wrap
cooked
for
on
the
the
stall.
Yeah.
yeah.
So
You're saying they don't wrap until they put them in the hole?
Until it's going to
Okay.
hold. Yeah. It's been on that pit all day. Or all
but this
night.
goes back to the pit you're cooking on, how much you're cooking. I mean, we had one brisket in that pit. That pit could have easily handled more. And you'll learn a lot of these stick burners and most any pit other than a pellet grill, I would say, the more you put in it, the better it's going to cook. So you think these guys got a 1,000-gallon pit that's loaded up with briskets? That's going to be a good brisket, you know, and it's not necessarily, it's because the pit's full. There's enough moisture in the air from all that meat cooking, and it's a gentle cook.
You want it full, but not crowded.
Right. You want airflow.
I've noticed that on the pits I cook on, that they cook better. I get better product on some of the, especially the bigger pits, when I've got them, you know, at or near capacity, but not just jammed where air can't flow. Because exactly what you said, you get that evaporative cooling of the meat where it's the juices going out, it's mixing with the smoke, and it's making a perfect environment. Air's flowing right in it, and the meat just cooks better.
Mr. Charlie, Emily's daddy, cooked those ribs last week, or I think it was last week before last. And he's never done this. He had to cook for an event at his church. He cooked 68 slabs of ribs, and he come borrowed our old hickory rotisserie. He got done. He said, that was the best rib I've ever cooked. And he's like, it was amazing. He said, you know, and I was like, well, I said, you had the pit full. I said, they're in there basting each other on that rotisserie. And I was like, it's hard to beat. I mean, it's hard to beat ribs that way.
It is.
No wrap, no nothing. But again, the pit was loaded correctly. It was enough moisture in the cook chamber. And that's a game changer, in my opinion. I mean, we've noticed that, you know, if you cook 4 slabs of ribs on one of these big outlaws, it's not going to cook quite as good as if you had 12 slabs of ribs on there. And I think that's a lot of times where some of these guys are running water pans. I'm guilty of it. I put a water pan in there now. If I'm only cooking a couple slabs or small protein, I'm going to put a little water pan in there just to add some humidity to the cook chamber.
So talking about the wrap, I mean, what do you use to wrap? What are your options? Do you wrap? Do you not wrap? What do you do with brisket? And tallow? Do you use tallow?
I mean,
What?
people want to sell tallow.
Sorry. Hold on.
They want to sell tallow. So they're trying to get people to put it in their briskets.
I mean,
You think that's the Tallow Association?
I don't think it makes that much of a difference when you wrap them up. I mean, well,
When
to me, it's always, if you want better bark, use butcher paper. If you want to steam up brisket and get it super tender, use aluminum foil.
yeah. And now I've seen them do the boats to where they only wrap the bottom but not the top.
What?
And I just think your pit ain't putting good color on your brisket, so you can't wrap it, is what I think.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand that. I mean, I guess you're catching some of the juices,
you're
but
catching the juices.
why am I going to have, that's like wearing half a sock. Like, why are you going to do that? Like, it don't make no sense. I'm a aluminum foil guy. I always wrap in aluminum foil. That's just because so many competition style briskets I cook. I think you get a beefier flavor in aluminum foil because it's holding a lot more of that moisture in there. So it kind of like concentrates it, I guess you'd say. But at home, man, butcher paper brisket's hard to beat. And I think the only thing we add to a butcher paper brisket, and this is just for ease of use, is we will spritz the paper, you know, to make it more pliable so you can fold it and roll it up.
Yeah,
good.
I mean, that's probably the only thing with tallow. It ain't like it's giving you any more flavor to put some
Yeah,
grease
it's
in
not
it.
going in the brisket.
Yeah. It's making it greasy on the outside.
And then as soon as it cools off a little bit, you're eating a wax candle because you done put all that tallow on the outside of it. Like,
Yeah, I don't think that helps you any at all.
I don't know. I'm like you. I'm anti-tallow.
Yeah.
Buy a
I mean,
good
it's
brisket.
all right. Don't get me wrong. I like warm beef tallow. I mean, I love,
It's delicious
love
on
marrow
bread.
bones. I love dipping bread in it. Yeah, but once it cools off, it's waxy. I mean, it leaves a film in your mouth, so it'll do that. If you like your brisket greasy,
There you go.
coat it up in it.
It's like when you're making tomato soup. You want to make
Yeah.
better tomato soup, add more tomato soup to it. That's exactly what you're doing with the wagyu or the tallow. It's going to make its own. It's going to render out what it needs
Yeah.
to render. It's going to do its own thing.
I could see rubbing it down with it before you put your seasonings on it as a binder. Just because it's going to help everything stick to it. It may help the outside brown up a little more at first. It's not giving you any more flavor on it. I mean, it's not doing anything for that.
And you're allowing it
It's
to
like
cook
putting
off.
oil on
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
I mean,
Do
we
it
made a
way up.
tallow
Do
that
it.
time we done that prime rib.
Yeah.
And it was delicious. But we had a cut station and we were running them slices through that hot tallow and then thumb grinding a little seasoning. I mean, we were jazzing those slices up, and it was a good bite.
Right then.
Right then. But once it got cool, again, it's waxy. It wasn't as good.
Mhm.
So it has its place. Like, I would love to have that tallow rendered off that Wagyu brisket for some bread, just like you would some bone marrow. Like, I
Heck
could
yeah.
get on board with that. But I'm not
Mixing
going
it in some mayo.
Yeah.
Speaking of
Love it.
mayo, Blue Plate mayonnaise, best mayonnaise on the planet. Mark, what is your favorite mayonnaise brand?
I plead the fifth.
He's not going to say it, is he?
No, I'll
I
tell
need you to say Blue Plate now.
If I'm
One of them
making a
others.
sandwich, a tomato sandwich, it's only Blue Plate.
There,
A
that's-
tomato sandwich does not taste the same with any other out there. So I will leave it at that.
Blue
I love
Plate.
all mayo.
Do you really?
I do.
You a mayo junkie?
Equal
Emily come home the
opportunities.
other day with some Aldi brand mayo that I have no idea what it is. Like, it wasn't even, it didn't, I think it was wrote in a pencil, like whatever brand it was. And it was good mayonnaise.
They
As
do
long
have
as it's
good
not Miracle
mayonnaise.
Whip, I'm on board.
I bet it was Berman's.
It is Berman's brand.
It ain't bad.
It is good.
It ain't Blue Plate.
It ain't Blue Plate. If you're choosing mayonnaise this weekend, make sure you choose Blue Plate. Hashtag
We
spread
got
the
Blue
love.
Plate in the refrigerator. Go Blue.
So you have both or both?
I got
kinds?
3 or 4 brands.
Really?
Yes. Because when we were all talking about this several months back, we were talking about doing a mayo tasting. I went and bought like 5 of them, and I'd done it.
Mayo tasting. He couldn't wait to do a mayo tasting.
I mean,
He's just lined them up, get the spoons out.
I was.
Do you use the same spoon or do you use a different spoon for each one?
As at my house, I use the same spoon.
It's like Granny's been there.
No, my
So-
grandmother's been there. It's gonna be cornbread and black eyed peas mixed up in that mayonnaise
Tomato
stuff.
seeds
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah.
It's gonna be pink almost.
Yes, she has her own mayo, like Mammy's mayo.
She's
It
going
stays
in
over there.
everything. Everything's going in that jar, huh?
You gotta understand, like, I was eating black eyed peas and mayonnaise when I was a kid. Like, and that is still one of my favorite
I had
summertime.
Never heard of that until I met Shell.
You're missing out.
Because it's New Year's and she's putting mayo on black eyed peas. I was like, what? That's supposed to be pepper sauce.
All right,
Oh, no,
A
I
little
did it.
pepper
It's
sauce.
delicious.
It's
I ain't gonna
delicious.
lie, I did it. I was like, what?
you put a little pepper sauce with it too.
Game changer. Yeah.
This
I
is
put
what
the
you-
pepper sauce too.
Mayo's not just for sandwiches. You can put it in your chili, your vegetable soup, your black eyed peas, your turnip greens,
I
No
put it
way
in
I'm putting it in
turnip greens and
Greens.
cornbread. Yes, and mayo. There is nothing wrong with that.
Now, I will say this. Mikey put me on mayo on cornbread instead of butter.
Yes.
You slice a piece of hot cornbread in, slather it up with some Blue Plate. Son.
And
It's
if you-
so freaking
If you
good.
grease your skillet before you make your cornbread with the mayo, the crust on the cornbread is light years better than any other.
Holy
Yeah.
smokes, I have
It's
never-
like an 1/8 thick. Like, oh, it's good.
Have you made biscuits with it?
We've done what was it?
Mayonnaise biscuits?
Paula Dean used to have a recipe. It was like 4 sticks of butter and flour or something for biscuits.
Yeah. I've
And
seen
then
that.
we've
You cook
done
'em
ma-
in butter pretty much.
Pretty much. We've
Yeah.
done it with mayo instead of the butter. And I mean, it's a good biscuit.
Yeah.
You done the mayo cupcakes. They were good.
Yeah, they were good. They were good. There was nothing
They're
wrong
real
with it.
good.
I mean,
You couldn't tell you couldn't tell mayonnaise was in it.
so I tell you what we did this weekend. Matter of fact, I was on the phone with you. We were cooking pancakes at the house. I make pancakes from scratch. I don't use Bisquick. I use flour, make my own.
Dang on.
It's easy. It's like 3 ingredients,
Yeah.
but we didn't have eggs. So I was like, I know Blue Plate's got some good stuff in it with eggs. So,
Got egg yolk in it.
Yep. So what I do, I put me 3 big old tablespoons of mayonnaise in my pancakes, and was like, "These are some good pancakes." I
Were they
did.
really
Oh, they
good?
were delicious.
Did you tell her?
Yeah, she watched me do it, and she's
Okay.
like, "I don't know about this," and I was like, "Well, we ain't got no eggs, so we got to do something." No, they was fine. They was really good.
Huh.
Don't hate on the mayo.
So, back to brisket real quick.
You ever put mayo on a brisket?
Heck yeah. Mayo on a brisket
I'm
sandwich?
talking about as a binder, like coated on the outside.
Oh, no. Burn ends. What's the deal with burn ends?
Nobody's
Real
they ain't doing
burn
them
ends?
anymore in KCBS.
All my points are in my freezer.
Yeah,
I save them for ground up deer meat.
man.
So, is that what it is? Points? The point of a
For
brisket?
KCBS or for competition brisket, yes, you're going to use the point. Real burn ends are not that. You know, that is truly a real burn end to me is the burnt ends. You
Yeah.
know, it's all your, usually it's going to be on the flat side where it tapers off, all them little crispy edges that get a little charred up. That's your
that
burn end.
that gets trimmed off now.
We get trimmed off.
Nobody's cooking briskets where you get the true burn in anymore because used to I first started cooking briskets, they would open them up and throw them on the pit.
Yeah.
There wasn't no trimming
Yeah.
them. You'd cook them, all that fat and everything on it. They use those burn ends to get people to buy brisket. Here, try this. Try this.
Yeah.
Throw it up on the counter as they're cutting it up. This is what brisket is, you know? And
Yeah.
they were just like little gifts.
If you get a perfect little square cube of brisket and they call it a burn in, I hate to tell you that's not a burn in.
Right. That's what it has kind of bastardized.
Now,
to.
is it a good bite?
Yeah.
Heck yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
a
was
good
gonna say,
bite.
it's-
fatty, tender? I mean,
It's usually coated in some kind of sauce.
yeah.
So that would be my recommendation is if you were going to cook a brisket, your very first brisket, go buy a whole one, learn to trim it, separate your point and flat, put the point, vacuum seal it, put it off the side. Do not cook it your first time. Cook or the flat. Don't cook the flat. Cook just the point because you can't screw a point up. I mean, we don't even temp them. We just put them on there and forget about them, wrap them in a little while.
Well, color
Go-
gets good on
Yeah,
it.
go back out there 10 hours later some days and like, oh crap, that point's still on there. And you go out there and probe it. It's like, oh, it's overdone. You go and slice it and it is perfect.
You still hold your points now?
Oh, yeah.
Just as long?
Which we don't cook them in contests. We've cooked them up here. And I mean, I still like a good burn in. Don't get me wrong. I love me a good greasy, fatty, good, soft. Just
Mhm.
it's like a meat cloud.
So
Mhm.
why are you not putting them in the box anymore in competitions? Why are you not serving them to judges?
Because
It's the trendy thing.
no, I want to put in the box to where there's no guessing. There's nothing that judge can score us down on. And a burn in is a gamble. I mean, I've cooked them perfectly and got hit, and I've cooked them to where they were terrible and done good. And that just gives you one more thing that judge can score you down. If he only can judge the flat, he or she can only judge the flat. Guess what? If your flat's perfect, they're not scoring you down. But if you give them a point and that flat's a little bit better than that burn in, guess what? They're going to score you down because of that burn in. So I only give them just the flat, give them the best flat I possibly can give them. And,
And we're just banking on judges not scoring you down for putting them in there.
Yeah.
For not having
yeah,
them.
not having.
Yeah. Because if I see a brisket box, I'm like, man, they screwed up. What'd they do with their point? They only serve flat. That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, this is all? What'd they do the rest of it?
Yeah,
But judges ain't
you
thinking-
can't judge what's not in the box.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah.
That's true. They can't judge you for your other end of your ribs not being in there.
Right. So we've only done flats for 2 years now, and
And get consistent brisket calls.
yeah, I think we've not got a call one time in brisket in the last 2 years.
Wow.
So it's been
And
brisket's
a lot
been
of first places there.
a lot of first places. Our brisket's been our bread and butter. Still humble because I still want to learn and get better because there's always something else to learn, but I'm pretty proud of my brisket recipe. A lot of shout outs to Outlaw Smokers for building a pit that'll cook this recipe perfectly every time.
So real quick before we wrap up, I wanted to talk about the community. We've got a Between the Buns contest going on in the community right now. Do you want to guess what a Between the Buns contest is?
What is between the buns?
It is basically any recipe that is between some buns, hamburgers, hot dogs, pulled pork
Sausages?
sandwiches.
What I mean, it's got to
sausages,
be like bread buns, right?
sandwich between some bread.
Okay, all right. Just making sure because I mean, some of these TikTok cookers out there, they got some buns they can put stuff between, and they would probably win it.
There's some,
So what's the contest? So you got to just send a picture or
yeah. You post a picture.
something you cooked or
Yeah, something you cooked that is your best between the buns recipe, and then the top top 5. We're giving away prizes for the top 5.
okay.
First prize gets a gift card to our online shop, and a gift card to the Pensacola butcher shop.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's sign up for this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cook a hot dog.
Yeah.
What's your best between the buns recipe?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh wow. I don't know. Best? It's probably gonna be a pork belly sandwich.
I saw that one of those somebody
Yeah.
entered one of those.
I would have to do a
What's
brisket sandwich,
A brisket sandwich.
like a breakfast
Mhm.
style brisket, like with the hollandaise sauce.
That's
Creole
gonna be your best?
mustard.
I don't know, man.
Oh wait, hold on. Let's
provolone
talk about
cheese.
this some more. That sounds almost like a
Just doing like a bagel?
yeah.
So when we tailgated a lot, that's what I would always make. I'd get the little miniature bagels. I'd cook a brisket the week before, let it get cold, slice it, do a hollandaise, provolone cheese, and Creole mustard, and pop in the oven until the cheese provolone melts all over it. Of course, provolone's full of fat, so it gets good and juicy in there. but I would turn around and do that on like a hoagie roll or something like that. It'd be pretty good.
Oh, that
That
sounds
would
really
be
good.
That'd be real good. I don't know. A ribeye sandwich would be hard to beat too, though.
Yeah. Also, hot
There's
dog
so many like
sliders.
yeah, but you can cook a slider. But man, what about a Philly cheesesteak?
Yeah.
I mean,
Fish sandwich.
anything fish sandwich.
That is not going to win it.
A fish sandwich
How was your Dave and Buster's fish the other day?
It was fishy.
was busted.
It was fishy, and I should have known better. Don't go to Dave and Buster's and order the fish.
I was tempted, and the more I thought about it, I was like, we are at a arcade. I am not ordering a fish sandwich.
Yeah. Go with something they can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got wings.
Yeah.
Those wings looked money.
The wings were good.
Yeah.
I was shockingly like,
Best
they were
thing
good.
best bite I had was truffle fries.
Me too. The truffle fries were on time. See, I ordered truffle fries at the arcade, and that
They were
worked
pretty
out.
good.
They
Yeah.
were delicious.
It's the best steakhouse in an arcade setting you can get.
What did you order?
I ordered Philly cheesesteak.
Was it good?
Heck yeah. Because they put that cheese sauce all over it.
Yeah.
Jamie ordered like extra cheese sauce, and I said, double that up, Utah.
think
Cheese
too.
sauce on mine.
All right, Malcolm, before we wrap up brisket, I do have a question.
What's that?
Give me your perfect brisket cook from where you're like what brisket you're cooking, what you're
Great
cooking
question.
on. Give me your perfect brisket cook.
You got to impress somebody.
Eating, okay, to impress somebody.
You're gonna sit down and eat a brisket with.
If you're cooking it for 10 famous people, 10 of your most
Yeah.
I'm
fans,
gonna
whatever.
I'm gonna
Hunger,
call
yeah.
Kevin up at the butcher shop and get one of his A9s. That's gonna be the meat, the protein of choice.
What's the price tag on that?
$250 probably.
Yeah, if you get a comp one, it's gonna be 200 plus. But if you get one of his non-comp A9s,
No, I'm talking about one of those 22, 23
yeah, you're gonna spend
pounders.
$200.
Yeah,
The one we had at Memphis and May,
yeah. That brisket.
that brisket.
And I'm not separating it. I'm cooking it whole. I'm cooking it low and slow.
Trimming
side
it?
up or
Best
down?
way, fat side down. I'm a fan of fat side down. We cooked that other one fat side up. It's okay. You trim most of it off anyway. I mean, it's down to a 1/4 inch, but I'm going to cook it fat side down, and I'm going to
Wow.
baby that thing. I just think I get a better brisket. I like that little piece of fat on the bottom of my slice. I like the crust to round out the edges and go over the top. I just think that's perfect. I'm going to wrap it in butcher paper. I'm going to smoke it till it gets to about bark 30. That's what I'm going by. Whatever,
Oh, what temper-
wherever
did you
bark
say
30
what
is,
temp you're
between
cooking?
150 and 180, somewhere.
Did you say what temp you were cooking at?
Yeah, I'm going to keep it low. I'm going to cook it below 250.
Below 250.
Yeah, it's going to take hours. It might take me 26 hours to cook this brisket. It's going to be a long one.
It might have to on
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
Yeah.
wagyu like that.
That's
You got a
how
lot
I'm
to
gonna do
render.
it. Yeah, but that's how I'm going to do it.
So
I'm
you
going to
wrap
rest
it-
it for 4 hours too.
What temp are you taking it to?
So it's done.
Till it's tender.
Yeah. I'm not giving you like a 202 or 212.
Yeah.
It don't work like that. You've got to go by feel alone. It's got to be the right feel. It's hard to explain to somebody. You can let somebody come up and feel it with the thermometer when one's right. That's the closest way I've ever got somebody to experience what it feels like. But not all briskets feel just alike. It's not the same on every one of them. So it depends on how that cook goes.
And two,
But that's how I'm cooking it.
I guess we might have forgot to mention this, but your first brisket cook, you got to feel it, right?
Yeah.
Well, just be aware every time you go in there and feel it and touch it, you're putting 30 minutes on that cook.
Oh yeah.
So I recommend, I think we said this in the video, is take your probe that you're using that's probed in the meat. Don't unwrap that brisket and just move that probe around, poke around, and you'll feel resistance and you'll know. I've actually seen guys take I think it's what are they called? You check the doneness of cakes, the little needle thing you can buy,
Oh, I just use a
toothpick.
Butter for
Well, they
it, yeah.
make like a stainless little probe that you use to check cakes.
Poker?
Yeah, my wife's got one.
Yeah.
But you could easily put that in there and leave it and let that stick outside your foil or your butcher paper and just shoot pool with it, see what it feels like and learn it. But I think a lot of people get in a situation where they open it to check it and they wrap it back up and they wait 30 minutes to open it to check it. Well, it ain't even recovered from you opening it to the first time.
Yeah.
And you just throw the stall on it then and you keep doing that, it'll never get done.
I mean, keeping that probe in it's that's the game changer cooking a brisket. You got to do that.
Yeah. I would recommend if you want a temperature, I wouldn't even look at it till over 200. Let it get to 200, then start checking it.
Yeah.
Because if you start checking it at 195, it'll never get there.
Once it happens with everything. Once you open it once, You let all that steam built up that's in there, whatever it is, even if it's in paper, if you was to unwrap it, it's almost never going to recover. It just don't. I don't know what it is. It lets it off. Everything has got built up. When you start jacking with it,
It'll throw the brakes on it.
What about you, Mark? You've got a group to impress coming over to your house. How are you cooking a brisket?
Another A9. If I'm going to go 180 from Malcom, I'm going hot and fast. I'm probably going to separate the point and flat.
So you just go get contest style.
No, I'll leave them big.
Yeah,
I'm not going to trim them all the way down. I'm going to start it out at about 400, 450. And
Swell it up.
Swell it up.
400, 450. So what do you mean when you say swell it up?
So with a brisket or anything that's high fatty, just like when you're baking, when you throw bacon in a hot skillet, what does it do? It draws up and it gets all wrinkly. A brisket will
Burgers do it.
Burgers do it. You're shocking it. So I'm going to take a brisket and put it on a microwave shelf and let outlaw, and it's 450 degrees probably, and shock it. And then I'm going to let it stay up there for about an hour, and then I'm going to move it down to the 300-degree shelf and just let it cruise. And I'm not going to push it hard, but toward the end, because it is a really, really marbled brisket, I'm going to bump the temp up again and start really rendering some fat. And do the same thing for the point and the flat. And I'm going to do some of them fake burn ends.
Are you wrapping it?
Yeah, I'll wrap it in foil. Foil, a little bit of beef broth. Of course, it's got to have prime beef on it and a little bit of Kerrygold. You got to have a little Kerrygold richness. Yeah.
To go with the fat from A9?
I'm going to cook the same brisket I did for the pig picking last year, basically, is what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a good brisket.
It was.
So,
real good brisket.
But that's two different briskets. But I think a lot of people do not get to experience that richness of a competition brisket, and it floors them. If they've never had it and they take that one bite, they're like, oh my God. And I mean, a lot of times you can eat a good brisket that's cooked well and it's good, but a lot of people have never got to experience that. So I think it shocks them. It's shock and awe, They're not going to eat much of it.
Yeah.
And they might be running to the bathroom 30 minutes later, but
guaranteed
it's going to be a good bite.
Probably for a day after.
But I'm more comfortable cooking that way because I've cooked so many in contests. That's one of the things. Like I would have to, if I was going to do a low and slow brisket, I have to back up and think on it for a minute, and make sure I'm hitting my marks. And
You got to babysit it. I mean, you babysit it in a different way. You're not messing with the grill. You're not putting fire to it, and adjusting stuff and moving around. But you're just watching the time and being patient. It's patience. It's patience. But I'll take something low and slow cooked over something hot and fast just about any day on a big meat.
So since this video is going to be brisket basics or something along those lines, is there going to be a following brisket video to follow up to this one?
It might be a rib basics or a pork butt basics or.
I mean, there could be different styles. You could do one low and,
Yeah, a low and slow.
The low and slow, it just takes so long to film. I mean, you're talking about
2 days.
Yeah.
24 hours. I mean,
it's hard to
a
tell
long
Tyler
time.
to come over at 3 a.m.
Yeah. To get
Oh, he griped all morning that morning.
Real quick before we wrap up, what's your thoughts on the Buc-ee's brisket?
Buc-ee's
Boosie's?
I love Boosie's brisket sandwich.
It's a solid brisket.
Yeah.
It upsets me that a Texas gas station has better brisket than most Mississippi barbecue restaurants does. But it's a good brisket sandwich.
I guarantee you they're cooking them and holding them a long time before they bring them out there and start yelling about cutting them up.
On the board.
Yeah, on the board. Brisket on the board.
Hey, the old brisket breakfast
Which one?
burrito.
Now, here's the question. Which one do you like better? The Boosie's sliced brisket or the Boosie's chopped brisket?
I always go chop.
I always go chop. Chop with mayos and pickles.
Yeah,
that's
that'd be hard to beat.
That's what I get when I go there.
Maybe that'd be a follow-up. Let's do chopped brisket.
Man, that would be a good one to do. But say if you're going to do chopped brisket. Okay, if you're going to do chopped brisket, here's the deal. Are you going to cook a whole brisket? Are you just going to cook points? Or are you going to cook chuck roast? Because I'm probably going to cook chuck roast.
I'm going to cook
chuck roast chopped up is way better than brisket.
Really?
Yes. It's so much. I mean,
that's it. Let's compare a chuck roast to a whole brisket. You cook a chuck roast. I'll cook a whole brisket.
And chop them up?
Chop them up.
All right.
Because, I think a whole brisket, same theory as a whole hog. You mix some of that lean and that fatty, that's got to be a good bite.
Yeah.
I mean, it is, but it's just,
Now, as far as simplicity, you can cook that chuck roast, in 3 or 4 hours?
Way cheaper, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you take that chuck roast just till it's done. I mean, all the way done.
I'll show it with my brisket. It might be one from Kevin, and then we'll go against your chuck roast.
No, that ain't fair there. Now, if I get a chuck roll
From Kevin?
from A9 chuck roll
Yes.
and then
That'd
cut
be
that
good.
up, I guarantee it'd be better.
Good stuff.
Well, Mark, thanks for coming on today, talking about
I
brisket
wouldn't
with
say
us.
anything about the Palmer home.
Okay, yeah. So we are completely forgot about it.
Yeah.
I have it on my notes and everything. We are currently doing a promotion for Palmer Home. It's our yearly fundraiser. It's our Feed a Family campaign. The goal is to raise enough money to feed an entire family for a year for the Palmer Home. They're an organization that helps children stay out of the foster care system, and it's a great organization. We always try to help them out. If you'd like more information on how to help us raise this money, go to HowToBBQRight.com/Palmer, PALMER. First prize wins a Outlaw patio smoker and a lesson on how to cook on it.
Learn to cook brisket
From-
with Mark.
That'd be a good one.
From Mark and Malcolm. Would
I
you
don't know what
help
we're
us
gonna cook.
do the class?
Yeah, it's all
Yeah.
hands on deck on that.
You tell me we're firing up Outlaw, I'm there. I'm ready.
But yeah,
So-
that's gonna be fun. To me, that's the prize on that. Get to come cook,
Yeah.
hang out.
I mean,
Oh, what-
taking a $5,000 pit
Yeah,
home
it's
with
not
you
a
is
bad.
good-
It's not a bad
It's a pretty
thing
good gig.
either. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a pretty good gig too. You get a cooker.
But gathering around the pit, some memories will be made.
Yeah.
That's right. It's once in a lifetime chance. Hey, it might be at the smokehouse. We don't know yet.
Yeah. We don't know. That wouldn't be a bad way to, break it in. Bring some
I'm
people
pretty
down
sure it's been broke
Oh, it's been
in.
broke in. We've been breaking it in.
We got to go film tomorrow. So,
Yep.
Well, Mark, let everybody know where they can find you.
Y'all can find us at Swine Life BBQ on Facebook, Instagram. Hadn't done much on the social networks lately, but y'all can always check us out. If y'all got any questions, we'll be glad to answer them.
You do have a pretty big catalog of videos on your YouTube.
yeah.
A lot of recipes there.
He's on Buck Junkies too.
On Buck Junkies too. Filmed yesterday with it.
If you'd like to connect with Malcolm, it's HowToBBQRight on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and of course YouTube. If you'd like to connect with me, it's Miss Southern Shell on Instagram.
All right. Well, we appreciate everybody out there checking us out. Mark, thank you again for
Yes,
coming and
sir.
hanging out with us. Looking forward to doing some more of those kind of basic style videos. Just kick back, talking about what we're cooking instead of just trying to throw a recipe out there. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it.
So
Y'all
we'll do it
have to do a
again.
hog next.
Oh, that'd be a good one too.
Basics of hog cooking.
Do a hog like that. We got all kinds of ideas for
Yeah.
that, Mark. We just might as well start another channel.
Whew.
Well-
I don't know about all that.
All right. Well, we'll see y'all next time. We gone.